It is Thursday, the 6th of September, 2018, and you're listening to Skeptics with a K, the podcast for science, reason, and critical thinking. Skeptics with a K is a production of the Merseyside Skeptics Society, a non-profit organisation for the promotion of scientific skepticism on Merseyside, around the UK and internationally. I am your host, Mike Hall. With me today is Marsh.
Hello.
And Alice.
Hello.
Back to the regular lineup.
Yeah, bog standard from here
week,
on in.
You know,
Sarah was good,
lineup. Sarah was excellent.
Very,
I thought
very
Sarah
good.
was very good. Not podcasted before, as far as I'm aware, but I thought she was very good. She was very entertaining, and we've had great feedback from our listeners on Sarah, who thought she had lots of cool stuff to say, which is awesome. So. We did that episode with Sarah, and we recorded that at Alice's flat.
Yeah, so this is the thing, is if listeners want to go back over that show and listen really, really carefully, you might be able to hear at some point during that recording my car being broken into, which happened directly outside of Alice's flat while we had all the windows fully open.
Yeah, we had everything open because it's really hot with four people in a room recording a podcast.
Yeah, and so we were there for 2 hours maximum,
just about,
I'd say, ish, and in that time, my car got broken into. And they stole from me, the thing they stole from me was an iPod 4S. Sorry, an iPhone 4S, which I only ever used as a sat nav, and so it was sat in my little sort of cradle on the in the car there. And I think it can't take a SIM card anymore because I think the SIM card little drawer on it was knackered.
Right.
It hasn't been on Wi-Fi for a very long time. It's got nothing at all on it apart from the sat nav system, the tool that I used on it. But it got stolen. So someone somewhere has made themselves a good $5's worth of thing there and cost me best part of £100. So yeah, if you want to listen back, listeners, you might be able to pinpoint the exact moment my window cracks.
Although you have to be able to distinguish that from the sound of Lupin throwing himself against the door.
That is true. Maybe he was trying to warn me. Maybe Lupin was aware.
If he'd have been in the room with us, he probably would have heard and drawn our attention to it.
That's true. That is true.
He has to be kept in the separate room because
he
can't be trusted.
yeah.
In a room while we're recording.
Whereas Kamiko, when I'm recording Be Reasonable, I did a couple of episodes Be Reasonable the other day. One I've already released. One can be released soon. She was sat in the room with me. She was sat just on a little box next to me. She was doing a few stretches, but didn't say a word, was absolutely calm.
Lupin doesn't make any vocal sounds. He just jumps at you and climbs on you and wants to be where you are.
Yeah, he throws himself at you at pace.
Yes.
Regardless of how far he has to cover to get there.
The disruption he causes is less so him making noise. It's us going, Lupin, no.
Or him walking around stealing things.
Yes. So he was in the other room and therefore didn't hear. He did hear, though. I was only alerted to you guys still standing outside on the street by him going and watching you from the balcony.
Oh, really?
Because he could see you guys.
So I was about to text you and say, you got a minute?
Yeah.
When I saw you peering down at us in the street. And then I was about to say, I'm looking up going, where's Alice gone? She's disappeared. I need to bring down a dustpan and brush. And then I spotted you in the corridor going, oh, there you are. She's holding a dustpan and brush.
Yeah.
Fully on this.
So that was a bit annoying, listeners.
No, but they left your laptop, which was on the back seat.
Yeah, thank fuck for that. My laptop, my bag, it was all on the back seat, and they left it. Thank Christ, because it would have been really annoying had they stolen.
Because it was just opportunistic. They saw the phone in the window.
If they were that opportunistic, they could have stolen the laptop. It was right there.
Well, they could have done, but they were probably trying to be quick, so that you didn't put your head out the window.
Yeah.
So that was a pain in the arse.
It was, and the thing is, I was going to near Doncaster the next day to do Camp Quest and do a talk for a lot of humanist children. And the plan was to drive there.
I mean, children are humanist parents.
Yes.
Well, I don't know, actually. I think the ones I met, some of them were certainly of an age where they had clearly, they clearly weren't being forced to be there. They were clearly all about it themselves.
Okay.
But, they could have been children of, they were humanist children of humanist parents, some of them. So yeah, I was supposed to drive to Doncaster and I couldn't because I didn't have a window.
No.
So I had to hurriedly get the train at the last second, which ended up being fine. It was actually quite good fun doing a talk for the old Camp Quest. What was interesting is I gave my Adventures in Pseudoscience talk, which I've given in lots and lots of different places. Never given it to a group of people involving like 11-year-olds and 8-year-olds or however
and had you been prepared for that?
Vaguely, in the sense that I knew it was a summer camp for kids, but didn't quite know the age of the kids or quite what the pitch of it was until I got there, and then I was able to ask. And I thought, that's fine, my normal one is fine. I'll have a quick scan through, so I'll tell a Joe Power story, that's fine. Oh, he does call me a paedophile, I probably need to take that bit out. And so I was kind of running through my stories going, oh, I definitely can't say that bit. Oh, and I need to sort of not talk about that thing there. And then hurriedly put some other bits in that I just had from a different presentation that I thought would work quite well. But it went down really well, so that was good fun.
Good job you weren't doing your bad PR one, where you have a long section where you talk about Jeremy Clarkson's cock.
A long section of Jeremy Clarkson's cock, a long section about Brandon Wade and his pseudo-prostitution website businesses. Yeah, that just would not have been appropriate. Also, I don't think the kids would be that interested in the bad PR stuff. I don't know how many 11-year-olds are interested in the inner machinations of a working 2018 newsroom.
They've just announced today that Doctor Who's back on air on October 7th. Which I'm very excited about.
The week before QED.
It's good. So the week before QED means that,
it's a Sunday, though.
Over QED weekend, there's going to be some Doctor Who on, which I'm going to be excited sitting in the bar with the iPlayer on.
It's on a Sunday night, it'll be on.
Watching a bit of Doctor Who. But yeah, it's airing on a Sunday. They're moving Doctor Who from Saturday to Sunday. And Doctor Who was never aired on a Sunday.
Has it not? First female Doctor, first Sunday air.
They've done repeats on a Sunday. And they may have done a special on a Sunday, like if Christmas Day happened to be on a Sunday or something. And they air it on Christmas Day. But in terms of its regular broadcast slot, never been on a Sunday. It's gone out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Never done Friday or Sunday.
Wow.
And it's like ridiculous. What's going?
Is this exciting? Because it just sounds like scheduling to me.
Well, I put up on Twitter with no context whatsoever. What do you mean, fucking Sunday? And people were replying to me going, yeah, no, it's terrible, isn't it? Fully figuring out what the fuck I'm talking about.
Unless they didn't think you were about Doctor Who and thought you were about something else, like church or something.
So, I'm a little bit perturbed that it's going out on a Sunday.
But isn't that better for you? Because how many times do you have to make the decision between Friends and Doctor Who?
I mean, it's not a decision.
And how many times have you made that decision in the favour of your friends is very low.
Because I've definitely had birthday celebrations where you've said, I'm here and Doctor Who's on. You should be very grateful.
Yes. But your birthday can also be on Sundays, Alice.
That is true. That is true.
But if your birthday's on a Sunday, you don't go out on the Sunday. You go out on the Saturday. People don't go out on Sundays unless it's bank holiday weekend.
Well, apparently the reason they've moved it is for Strictly Come Dancing.
That makes sense. That must get more views than Doctor Who.
Well, yeah, so Strictly gets better viewing figures than Doctor Who, but Doctor Who, like, no one's watching a repeat of Strictly in 10 years' time, whereas no one's buying a DVD of Strictly, so
it's very disposable, throwaway garbage.
Yeah. I'm going through a bit of a phase of watching previous seasons of reality TV shows.
Really?
I don't know why.
How and why?
Like things like MasterChef and...
How will you even find that?
Because loads of them are on Netflix or like past seasons.
Netflix. They put them up on Netflix.
On Netflix.
Well, I suppose it's for the American audience. Because I know there's a lot of people in America watching like Great British Bake Off and stuff. I don't understand.
Because I just like general like background conversation noise while I'm pottering around the flat. Yeah. So it's perfect. It's like people talking to each other and generally just doing bits and pieces, and it's not anything that I care about missing. So I've been watching like loads of British Bake Off stuff.
But they kept having to move Doctor Who around the schedule on Saturday night because they had to fit in around the Strictly live show.
And sometimes they'll do like a longer episode or whatever.
Yeah, and so Doctor Who would someday be on at 6:30, and then it'd be on at 7, then it'd be on at 7:15, and then it'd be on at 7:20. And it's like, when the fuck is Doctor Who on? And I hope
it's ironic that the show keeps moving around in time.
It is. And I hope that the move to Sunday means it'll be in a normal fucking slot and people will know Doctor Who's
half
on
11 p.m.
Sunday at 7, and it just always is, and everyone knows when it's on. But I am a little bit perturbed. But it's like Sunday. Doctor's on a Sunday show. It's a Saturday show. Should we do a podcast?
We'll do a podcast. A week or two ago, I was contacted by a journalist at the Sunday Telegraph. And they were asking me whether I'd ever seen an electrical zapper machine on sale before.
One of those ones
there are lots of electrical zapper
takeaway
machines.
For...
Not one of those. Not one of the ones that I once bought from a health food store when I went in and said, have you got anything to stop me getting malaria?
Okay.
And they gave me a little sort of piezoelectric clicker that I could use to zap my mosquito bites.
They actually sell them for that, but I thought I've had those little electric clickers before because they're useful for insect bites when you're really, really itchy.
Yeah, they numb it for a while.
They kind of stop it itching so much, and that's what I thought they were sold as.
Well, I think they're meant to be sold as that, but I think the person who was selling me them just wanted something to sell me for that. Yeah. So he thought, right, well, malaria, that's mosquitoes, isn't it? Right, I'll get you the mosquito thing. This is a mosquito thing. Yeah, I did get sold that, but this isn't a piezoelectric machine. This is something else.
TENS machine.
It's not a TENS machine. I'll come to several different types of machines.
I don't know why my brain went to the mosquito clicker thing first and not the TENS machine, despite me using a TENS machine more often than I use the clicker.
Maybe a TENS machine is so background noise to you, it's like watching MasterChef. It's like you don't even notice it anymore because it's so common. So the journalist was James Cook, and he was particularly keen to explore technological. His sort of remit is the technological adjunct to alternative medicine. That's an area he's kind of looking at the moment, and where consumers get harmed, that kind of thing. So I was keen to do what I could to help out. So I was pretty pleased to see the following story appearing in the newspaper on Sunday the 2nd. eBay removes fake cancer zapper treatments from sale. The online auction site eBay has been selling quack cancer cures that involve zapping patients with electricity. The Sunday Telegraph found that more than 30 different cancer zapping devices were being sold through eBay, priced at up to £299, and one seller in Northern Ireland has been selling them for over a year.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is a story about zapping away your cancer, particularly. And I've got to say, so he sent me the links to these, and I started looking into them a little bit and provided, of course, some little bits of guidance while he was writing the story. And looking at the devices, what struck me most of all was how familiar the devices actually looked. Because as the Telegraph story says, most of the machines use copper handles connected to a battery to send an electric current through the person holding the handles. One eBay listing for a zapper device advised customers to wrap the copper handles in paper towels, quote, when you feel a burning sensation during use.
What?
So I've actually got a game.
So add insulation.
Yeah. Paper towels. It'll go through the paper towels.
If the electric hurts, put an insulator in.
Rather than stop electrocuting yourself.
Okay.
Yes. I've actually got a game for you because of how familiar a device setup that is.
Right, okay.
I've got 4 pictures of said devices, and I want you to tell me which is which. We can always put these pictures up on the in the show notes.
Okay.
So one of these is an allergy detector. One of them is an emotional response indicator, which is marketed as a GPS for your mind, which will be able to track your emotional responses to things. One of them is a Scientology e-meter.
Yes.
And the fourth of them is a cancer zapper.
Okay, I think so.
Alice, well, if you've got a good handle on things, Alice, where do you want to sort of start? Because Mike seems like he's pretty confident about this.
Well, I'm confident about one of them specifically.
Because one of them you've seen before. I think I've seen this one before, but I don't know in what context. I'm going to say that's the cancer one because it looks slightly more medically.
Okay, so you've picked the sort of the white one with blue on it there with the copper rods. As I said, we'll put these in the show notes. Yep. Mike, do you want to sort of talk us through the board in a game show style?
I think so we've got a big blue one with a white dial on it, and I'm pretty sure that's an e-meter.
Correct, that is a Scientology e-meter.
I think that is an e-meter, yes. So we've got some there with like copper tubes with crocodile clips on them. I think that might be our winner. This might be the one with the copper tubes with the crocodile clips on. I think that might be the
cancer one.
Okay.
The cancer one.
What makes you say that?
Don't know.
Fair enough. And the other two?
This looks familiar to me. I've seen this somewhere before. It's the one that looks like the photo was taken in the 80s.
That
one's got written on it. It says inner track, which makes me think that's the GPS for your mind.
I mean, it is, and I was hoping you wouldn't actually read that. So that one is indeed the GPS for your mind, the inner track. We may come back to that in future stories. I'm not sure. The top one that Alice you said was the cancer zapper. That's the Aza machine, which is the one that I had administered at the Tesco's in Horwich when it ran me through thousands of different foodstuffs.
The allergy test. That makes sense.
And zapped me. So that was the allergy one. But the fundamental point to this is they're basically the same thing. They're just a device, usually powered through a battery with some handles that you hold onto, and it runs an electric current through, and it's basically a galvanic skin response and a little more than that.
Yeah.
So the Telegraph points out the medical professional has widely discredited these machines as worthless. At best, they are a waste of money, which may encourage patients to stop taking effective medicine. However, the zapping machines have also been found to cause other health problems by interfering with pacemakers, and similar devices have caused a man to suffer dizziness and a near fainting incident in 2004, according to the New England Journal of Medicine. It's worth pointing out as well that this particular zapping device, the cancer zapper that was being pointed out in the Telegraph, was actually manually constructed using some instructions and is powered by a 9-volt battery. So this isn't just a machine that will kill your cancer with electricity. It's a machine that will kill your cancer with 9 volts of electricity, which is the amount that you'd put through your tongue if you licked a square battery.
Yes.
So maybe that's an alternative way of curing your cancer, is instead of buying one of these devices and holding the cancer rods, just lick a 9-volt battery. If you've got
mouth cancer,
don't do that.
If you've got mouth cancer, that's a perfectly appropriate way to treat it. It's just licking a battery.
We're not recommending even in joking licking a battery.
What I love, Alice, is we've been talking about using electricity to zap away cancer. You've said nothing. We say lick a battery. You said, hey, we don't recommend you lick a battery, guys.
It's obvious we don't recommend this. We're about to debunk it. I don't want to step on your toes.
Well, so as I told the Telegraph and was quoting the Telegraph story, in my opinion...
Don't lick a battery.
Don't lick a battery. But also, there is no reason to believe that a device powered by a 9-volt battery can have any effect on a serious illness such as cancer. And the theory that these zappers are based on has no basis at all in reality. What's frustrating here is that the cancer zappers themselves aren't being sold as cancer zappers. If you go to eBay where they're being sold, they're not being sold as cancer zappers. They're being sold as Holder Clark zappers, which sounds a little bit, first of all, like you're trying to zap Holder Clark.
I've heard this person's name before.
Well, we're going to find out all about her in a minute. Well, I'm going to tell you an awful lot more about her.
She comes up a lot in particularly the German clinics that we've been interested in before.
In zapping circles, she's a
big name in
zapping circles.
So these are Holder Clark zappers. So you presumably could use them to zap someone called Holder Clark, but they're named after the Canadian naturopath who invented them. So the description of these products on eBay doesn't mention cancer anywhere in the listing at all.
Of course not.
But it does link to an ebook. And that ebook is called The Cure for All Diseases, as written by Holder Clark in 1995. So I thought we'd take a look at that book, okay? So Holder Clark wrote the book in 1995. She explains in the prologue, the most promising discovery in this book is the effectiveness of electricity to kill viruses, bacteria, and parasites. Does this mean you can cancel your appointment with your clinical doctor? No, it does not. Killing your invaders does not make you well instantly. But happily, at your next doctor visit, she or he will remove your drugs and not add them. You might think that such an invention would be quickly patented, an electrical device that could kill all bugs. This was my universal advice, but I chose not to do that. It helps me and my children, my grandchildren. The whole world needs to come out of the dark ages and to learn the true causes of infection and disease. We must and can usher in the new disease-free age of living. Not a single disease is left unconquerable with this new understanding.
Not a single disease.
So you wonder how effective this is. Well, Holder says, no matter how long and how confusing the list of symptoms a person has, from chronic fatigue to infertility to mental problems.
If you electrocute them, they're fine.
If you electrocute them, fine. She says, I'm sure to find there's only two things wrong. They have in them pollutants for you, Alice, or parasites. It's pollutants and parasites. She said, I never find lack of exercise, vitamin deficiencies, hormone levels, or anything else to be a primary causative factor. The solution to good health is obvious.
But wasn't she saying that electricity kills, like, bacteria?
Yes.
Bacteria isn't one of those two things.
It's a parasite.
But it's not.
It depends what you mean by parasite. Depends what she means by parasite.
Bacteria is not a parasite.
If you define parasite as something that's in you, a living thing that's in you that should not be in you.
That's not the definition of parasite.
What is the definition?
If you define parasite as a car,
I wonder what is
there's a load of them outside.
I can't remember, but I did a parasitology module at university, so I know that's not it.
I'd have thought a decent working lay definition of parasite would be living organisms.
She's not talking about lay definitions. She's talking about, like, cures to all disease.
True. Well, as she says here, the problem, pollution. Simplest cure, avoidance. Something's polluting you, avoid that.
Avoid it.
Problems, parasites. The cure is electronic and herbal treatment. Done.
Okay.
So, Alice, I asked you earlier, because you said you're in quite a lot of pain and various things today. I asked you earlier some of your symptoms, and I've actually referred to the book Cure All Diseases to find out how to cure each of the symptoms that you have. So this is going to be a useful session for you.
Good.
So you told me there was a problem with your the left hand side of your neck.
Yeah,
It's polluted.
Now there isn't a left hand side of the neck listed, but there is
the neck.
back of the neck and front of the neck. So it's a bit more specific. It's just they haven't gone left and right; they've gone front and back.
It's actually like running from the back to the front.
All right, well, this is handy. So for the back of the neck, she says, the back sides of the neck seem to be the highways that run between the teeth and the liver.
Naturally.
Can I ask if she's confident enough in her theory that she thinks she could patent these electric devices? Why is she saying that it seems to be?
Yeah. Well, I love the way you say she's confident enough to patent, rather than the fact that she's confident enough to state she can cure cancer. So, no, well, that's an obvious thing. That's the obvious ability.
I was being charitable to her.
But the back sides of the neck seem to be the highways between the teeth and liver. Pulling an infected tooth or cleaning a cavitation can bring complete relief. Extraction should be followed by cleaning out the cavity so an infection can't start. So maybe you need to have a tooth pulled. Cleaning the liver can also bring immediate relief, only to find pain and stiffness will return months later. You need to cleanse many times for permanent relief. An allergic reaction to potatoes or tomatoes can also express itself in neck pain.
Okay. I don't think I've eaten either of those things in the last week.
All right, well, that's just the back of the neck. There's the front of the neck as well. So the front of the neck, she says, the lymph nodes under the jaw strain your body fluids of the head, strain the body fluids from the head, removing bacteria and toxins. If the stream of bacteria is endless, such as when they are coming from a hidden tooth infection,
Good.
The lymph nodes were enlarged in order to do a better job. What?
She's obsessed with teeth.
The teeth is the problem here. They'll also try to remove any toxic metals, mouthwash, and toothpaste for you. That's what your lymph nodes are doing. Your lymph nodes are trying to remove toothpaste.
Get rid of all that toothpaste.
Get rid of all that toothpaste
before it goes down the highway to the liver.
She says, since we have lymph nodes in many locations of the body, you can't single out just the neck nodes for study. You need to see all the lymph nodes. So you get to see all the toxins affecting the lymph nodes everywhere, from polychlorinated biphenyls in your underwear that are being removed by groin lymph nodes, to lead in your intestinal lymph nodes from the water that you're drinking, Alice, to mercury in your neck lymph nodes from the amalgam fillings. Eliminate all of those. So stop drinking water. Get your mercury fillings removed and stop wearing underwear, and you'll be fine. And your neck pain will go away, apparently. So that's a neck pain. I think you said shoulders. You had some painful shoulders.
Or just you slept funny. Could be that as well.
Could be slept funny.
Could be just...
I actually do know the cause of my neck pain, and it's not an intuitive one.
Is it your teeth or your liver?
It's not either of those things.
Is it drinking water, fillings, or underwear?
No.
Okay. So your shoulders. Now, shoulders, shoulder pain always, or not seems, but always, shoulder pain always derives from stuck gallstones in the bile ducts of the liver.
Of course.
You can prove this by taking a tablespoon of Epsom salts in 3/4 of a cup of water at 6 p.m. Instead of supper and on an empty stomach. Otherwise, you might feel quite ill. If some of the pain subsides, then you've got evidence as to its true cause, because Epsom salts relax the bile duct valves.
If when you're hungry, the pain you're feeling is distracted from the pain in your shoulders and is moved to the fact that you've got hunger pains.
You've got gallstones in your liver, in the bile ducts of your liver. So you've got to start cleaning your liver. By the time you've got chronic or acute shoulder pain, do you think you've got chronic or acute shoulder pain?
Chronic or acute are direct opposites.
Yeah.
Are those the two options?
There's the two options. It's either chronic or acute.
So do you have chronic pain or not chronic pain? Is the question.
If you have one or not one. By the time you have chronic or acute shoulder pain, you have around 3,000 gallstones, Alice, in the bile ducts of your liver.
This plays on a particular annoyance of mine.
That's good, because I've got loads more of them.
A lot of people take acute to mean really, really severe, or chronic to mean really, really severe, rather than them to be
acute as in limited and chronic as in sort of constant or over time.
I once had to have a long conversation with somebody about why acute cancer is not better than chronic cancer. Because acute
means... No, cancer's pretty bad generally.
Well, yes, but if you go from a chronic cancer to an acute cancer, that means your life is much, much shorter.
Okay. Fair enough. So that was your shoulder pain. So that's your gallstone. You've got gallstones, a problem with your teeth, and you need to detox your liver so far, as well as all the other stuff. you said you had problems with your spine at the top, sort of between your shoulder blades. So the main pain might be a dull ache over the shoulder blade or between the shoulder blades or running right through you from the front to the back of the chest. These are all gallstone pain coming from the liver. Clean your kidneys first. Kill all the parasites that might be residing in the bile ducts and blocking them, such as flukes, pinworms, and roundworms.
Why is this different to the last thing? Because the last thing was gallstones, but you have to take Epsom salts at 6 p.m. And now it's gallstones, but you have to clean your kidneys first in case of roundworm.
Well, they were talking about cleansing the liver.
Do cleansing your kidneys by drinking lots of water.
Because it's got lead in it.
Because of the lead.
Mm.
Look in the ingredients on my water bottle to see
how much lead you got in. Yeah, added lead. So once you've done your cleaning your kidneys, mark your calendar for your first liver cleanse. The pains will probably be magically, in quotes, gone the next day, but they might start to return in 2 days. The bile ducts are therefore having spasms due to your remaining stones. After you've cleaned out 1,000 or more gallstones, you'll get permanent relief. Repeat every 2 weeks.
But basically what she said there is once you start recording your pain on your calendar, you might start to notice pain.
Yep. Also, this is you might have 1,000. So for the shoulder blade pain, that's 1,000. Or the between the shoulder blades pain is 1,000 gallstones. But once it gets to your shoulders, that's 3,000 gallstones.
Okay.
So, but do a few of these things. So once you've got rid of 1,000 gallstones, you'll have permanent relief. Repeat this every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Good. You mentioned you had lower back pain.
Yeah.
So, acupressure massage and chiropractic can bring about miraculous relief. However, if muscle relaxation is the clue, if that's what helps you, you've got to ask, why are those muscles spasming so easily? Okay, any muscle spasms, if you irritate or injure it suddenly. So that any of your muscles will spasm if you are irritating or injuring it. In fact, your whole body spasms and flinches if a sliver or a bit of broken glass is in your shoe.
Sure. Yeah.
Remove those objects, and you'll be fine.
That has happened to Lana.
Really?
And she used to work in restaurants, and she was wandering around the restaurant, and she felt a stone in her shoe, and she said, "Oh, fucking hell, that's a fucking pain in the arse, stone in the shoe." But when you're working in a restaurant, as I'm sure Alice knows, because you've worked in restaurants as well, haven't you? You don't have time to fucking stop and worry about a stone in your shoe. You have to keep going and keep going and go and go and go and go. And eventually, Lana was like, "I've got 15 seconds now. I can go and check the stone in my shoe," which turned out not to be a stone, but a piece of glass. And which had since disappeared up into her foot, and her shoe was full of fucking blood.
And did she have low back pain?
And presumably it caused low back pain, because this woman is not at all full of shit. So Lana's low back pain must have been caused by the chunk of glass in her shoe.
So there you go. Remove the chunk of glass, you'll walk normally. But she also says all lower back pain can be cured by removing sharp oxalic acid crystals in the kidneys. It takes about 3 weeks to dissolve them. In some very severe cases, it may take 6 weeks, but whether you've suffered a year or for 20 years, this permanent cure is only weeks away. And finally, you mentioned you're in hip pain. This is the only other one that I could find of your
It's the coolest kind of pain.
Very, very hip pain. Just don't clap for it. Don't applaud for it. Just click instead, like a jazz cafe.
It's hip pain, Daddy-o. This pain ain't square.
So hip pain, have you any idea what that might be to do with?
I know exactly what it's to do with, but...
Is your answer, well, hip pain is always due to bacteria.
Which isn't a parasite or
not a parasite
pollution.
Or a pollution, but it's bacteria. In fact, these bacteria regularly come from 2 sources. You want to guess at the sources?
Water.
No, it's the kidneys and the teeth.
Good.
So start yourself on a kidney cleanse, because your kidneys are making your hips hurt and your teeth are making your hips hurt. Continue on the recipe until a dental cleanup has been completed. The dental cleanup could take several weeks if extensive work is required. During that time, kill all your parasites electronically. Keep killing bacteria, especially staph, strep's, Clostridium, and campylls. Good. So I hope that helped, Alice. There's Hulda Clark's diagnosis for you. So it's a useful book. So she mentioned about killing parasites electronically. You might wonder how electricity can kill parasites and do all these amazing things. Well, Hulda does explain it in her book. She said in 1988, I discovered a new way to scan a body organ. It was electronic. We can already see an organ with a sonogram, X-rays, CAT scan, MRI, that kind of thing. But she says,
see an organ with an X-ray?
You can see lungs. Not you can't. You could. I mean, you wouldn't use an X-ray for lungs, but you can see your lungs on an X-ray because there's like a shadowy bit here, isn't there? And you can see if there's like a mass in the lung from an X-ray.
Yeah, I suppose.
So yeah, I mean, she wasn't saying every one of those is the, but she said this is your cluster of tools you can use in order to do. Let's be fair to her here. My new electronic technique can check for viruses, bacteria, fungi, parasites, solvents, and toxins, and in addition is simple, cheap, fast, and infallible. Not bad. Electricity can do many magical things. Now we can add detecting substances in our body to that list.
Okay.
So
solvents.
So how it works? Yeah, solvents.
Solvents.
Yeah.
The most famous solvent being water.
Yeah.
Which is quite common in the body. That's quite common.
But she can identify it.
Yeah.
You can tell
You've got a lot of water in the body.
Juice.
No, and juice, yeah.
She can tell between solvents.
Pop, things like that. Okay.
She says, if you match very precisely the properties of an external circuit so that its resonant frequency is the same as the emitted frequency coming from somewhere else,
talk shit.
The circuit oscillates. This is what she says, okay? This means there'll be positive feedback in an amplifier circuit. You can hear it, she said, like when a public address system squeals. It's two circuits, match frequency stuff. Now your body emits frequencies. So when you combine an audio oscillator circuit with your body and you hear resonance, you've detected a match. So you tune in to your body's frequency, you see. So
I think we could cure all pseudoscience if we taught them about what resonance actually means.
Yeah,
there's a good chunk of them that misuse resonance.
Yeah, I think to cure all pseudoscience, you'd have to also throw in what effect scale has, because that would also get rid of homeopathy and flat Earth for one thing. But she says something in your body matches something in the circuit on the test plate. That's what so you've got a test plate, you run a frequency through it. When you hear a squeal, that's matching whatever the test plate is on the test plate is matching what's in your body. By putting a laboratory sample of, say, a virus on the test plate, you can determine if your body has that virus by listening for resonance. Hearing resonance is easy if you're a radio technician or a musician. Others have got to patiently practice. She said you don't have to be an expert in anything to learn this method, but a keen sense of hearing helps. You can actually hear what's wrong with you by the squeal that's made by this device. She says human bodies have got their own electrical frequencies. You can track it, but so do other things. So flies have got their own frequency. Beetles have got their own frequency. Fleas have got their own frequency. Ants and cockroaches, they all have their own frequency. And so too do dead insects.
Do different types of beetle have different frequencies? Is that one each, or just like all species of ant have a frequency?
Worms have definitely got, each individual worm has got its own frequency. Not individual worms, but individual sort of species of worm.
Is this a new definition of speciation that we've not been aware of before, that if it's got a new frequency, it's a different species?
How
I think
many
so.
frequencies are there?
I mean, there's a few.
You can.
Are there more than there are species of animal?
I don't know.
Surely it's infinitely divisible, isn't it?
Yeah, it depends on how.
Well, not infinitely, because hertz is a measure of a thing.
28.2 hertz. 28.3 hertz, 28.35 hertz.
But we surely can't distinguish between those.
And we also can't go. It's not infinite because hertz is a measure per second, isn't it? Is it 1,000 per second? Is a hertz? So even so,
it's a hertz.
well, you define what hertz means. I'm not an expert.
No, it's a hertz. It's named after a bloke called Hertz.
Okay, right, yeah.
It's not like one hertz to many hertz.
Oh, is it? No, I knew it was. Oh, so it's 1 hertz.
1 hertz.
Oh, okay. I see. I still think once per second is a hertz.
One Twix is a twick.
Exactly. So yeah, but it's not going to be infinite then if it's a measure of how many times per second. I suppose it could be more than you could go into.
You could get lots of. We're going to run up against the start Planck limits eventually at some point.
Yeah. But dead insects have also got their own frequency. So I don't know if that's different from a living one.
For every single species, you've got one for alive and one for dead.
It might be the same. It might be just that. It might be that the thing doesn't have to be alive to make that frequency.
Okay.
Yeah. Because she says if dead things had a resonant bandwidth, she said there may be a pre-prepared microscope of a dead cell of a dead creature. Like a microscope slide, rather, of a dead creature could be used. And so she said, and therefore my trips to the garden and telephone calls to the abattoirs for meat parasites could cease, because she was clearly calling up abattoirs to say, have you got any meat parasites I can borrow? Because she wanted them living. So I don't need the living ones now. I can kill it and just use it once. She said, my first slide was of the human intestinal fluke, which is a huge parasite, a scourge of humanity. Said I had just found it to be present in the liver, but not the intestine, of every cancer sufferer that I saw. The dead parasite has a resonant frequency of around 434,000 hertz.
Why is she seeing cancer patients at all?
She's a naturopath.
Oh, good God.
Suddenly I got an idea out of the blue. If a person was to hold on to the frequency generator while it was generating 434,000 hertz, what would happen to that adult fluke if you were infected with it? I tested the plan the same week on myself, not with the fluke, but with the salmonella bacteria and giardia and herpes that I carried chronically. After a 3-minute treatment, I retested myself. I could no longer find them in my organs.
So she retested using resonance?
Yes.
Not using science?
No, she retested using her
So she thinks
listening.
she's cured of these viruses that she carries chronically.
Salmonella and herpes, yeah. Because she could hear them at one point. We don't know, I mean, stepping aside from a story, we don't know that she ever had them because she used her device to
also, I don't think I've ever heard of chronic salmonella infection.
Have you heard of acute salmonella infection? She said, I can no longer find these things where no emissions at those characteristic frequencies are repeated and repeated. Were they really dead? Maybe they were just numbed and suddenly hiding, but my symptoms were gone as well. My herpes lesion stopped tingling. It was all too simple and unbelievable.
Herpes stopped tingling.
I don't know if she means a cold sore, or whether she actually means herpes, but
A cold sore is herpes?
I know, but when she says my herpes lesion, is she saying...
She means a cold sore.
She might. She might just be confessing to having genital herpes. She's doing it very casually. She said, so in 20 minutes, 3 minutes at 6 different frequencies, a whole family could get rid of this parasite completely. Cancer cases show that in a few hours, the universal cancer marker, orthophosphatyrosine, Alice, that's the universal cancer marker, orthophosphatyrosine.
Every single person alive has phosphorylated tyrosine in their body.
It's a universal cancer marker. Everyone with cancer has it.
For the listeners, Alice is literally face palming.
You did just face palm. She said it could be banished from their bodies by killing this parasite. So
you do not want to banish phosphorylated tyrosine from your body.
Why not?
Because it's fundamental to many signaling pathways in every single cell in your body.
So you don't want to get rid of orthophosphatyrosine?
No.
Okay.
I don't know what she means by ortho.
Yeah, I don't know if she knows what she means by ortho. She says, my electronic method of attacking illness was born. Find the resonant frequency of a bacterium, virus, or parasite using a slide or a dead bit. It says dead bit. Treat the living invaders inside the human body with this frequency, and in a matter of minutes, they are no longer transmitting their own bandwidths. They are dead or sick and will be removed by our white blood cells.
Hang on. So you get a dead bit, right? And you use that to figure out what the resonant frequency is.
Yep.
Yeah. You then apply that resonant frequency.
Yep.
Which kills all the stuff in you.
Yep.
And now you can't detect them anymore because they're not resonating because they're dead, even though the dead bit resonates with the same frequency as the live bits.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
That makes no sense.
The dead bit on the slide does produce that frequency.
Yeah.
But the dead bit in you
doesn't anymore.
Doesn't.
Okay.
Until it's out and on a slide. Yeah. Don't know. So, this zapper device can cure everything that ails you. The book describes precisely how to build a zapper with electrical diagrams, and that's what was being sold on eBay. People who followed these diagrams and were selling the Hulda Clark zapper for all manner of prices from like 20 quid to 300 quid. And yes, she can cure cancer. In fact, she can cure it, according to her, with such reliability that she's a first-line response. She says in the cancer chapter, if you notice a lump or think you might have cancer, don't rush to see a doctor first. Rush to clear it up yourself first. By the time your doctor's appointment arrives, you can be sure of a negative test. She says cancer is so easily cured because it's a parasite-caused disease. The responsible parasite is the Phaseolopsis buscae, the human intestinal fluke, a flatworm. All cancer caused by a flatworm. Alice has now got to a point where she's just shrugging. She's just like, kill the parasite and you've stopped the cancer. It only takes 7 minutes to zap all of the parasites that will be causing your cells to multiply. 7 minutes to cure cancer before you even see a doctor, Alice.
All the parasites causing your cells to multiply.
Mm-hmm.
You want your cells to multiply. You don't want them to multiply too much. That is cancer, but
you want them to multiply a bit.
They need to multiply a bit, yeah.
Like a bit of like a Goldilocks amount. You're going to be multiplying just right.
Otherwise, you're just going to die.
Yeah. But if you've got cancer, see a doctor first. Cancer isn't the only serious disease that Hulda claims to have cured. She says incurable, quote unquote, incurable HIV cases lose their virus in a few hours too. Bear in mind, she published this in 1995 and made the discovery in 1988. So there's She had laboratory retesting for HIV, came back negative. Most cases of pain got immediate relief if I could identify the correct bug and have its frequency found by the next office visit. So she's clearly talking about having actually treated people here. Although when she says laboratory retesting for HIV came back negative, I wonder if what she means is I tested, said you got HIV, did my stuff to you, you went off to a doctor, they said you haven't got HIV. Yeah. It worked.
Yeah.
I said, this seemed to be absolute proof that living things had an essential frequency and some sort of energy. Said HIV and AIDS diseases are very similar to cancer. That is why cancer is so often seen with HIV and AIDS. Go on, Alice. As a cancer specialist who's now working in HIV.
They're not similar in any way, shape or form.
Very similar.
That's not why there's an increased frequency.
They're caused by the same parasite. Without benzene in your body, you can't get AIDS.
I've heard that.
What does she think benzene is?
Benzene is a chemical it's a pollutant that, when mixed with that parasite, produces AIDS. But
it does make AIDS.
It makes AIDS.
Yeah.
Whereas if you take that parasite and mix it with a different chemical, you get cancer. It's all about the presence of one chemical, which I think might be that orthophosphine.
Yeah.
Orthophosphatyracine, was it?
I mean, she's using a lot of science words, so that's how I know she's telling the truth.
So without benzene in your body, you can't get AIDS. Without the intestinal fluke in your body, you can't get AIDS.
Without HIV in your body, you can't get AIDS.
Yes. Well, she says without the intestinal fluke in your body, you can't get HIV. But without benzene in your body, you can't get AIDS. So she does seem to think the two are different. That's a good start. She said, as soon as you find out you're HIV positive, don't panic. It was inevitable. It was also inevitable for many others with unexplainable risk factors.
That's a fortune cookie you don't want, isn't it? AIDS is inevitable. So, Jesus Christ.
If you have a source of infection with the intestinal fluke and at the same time a source of benzene, HIV and AIDS are a logical result. After killing the parasite and its stages, the HIV virus will be gone in 2 hours. So use this electric zapper, get rid of HIV in 2 hours. Clearly, this is enormously dangerous stuff. It's likely to put people's health at risk if they follow this in place of real medicine.
I'd like to think it's so obviously bollocks that people wouldn't fall for it, but because she throws so many science words in, it can sound legitimate, especially if you're following her conviction that she's certain on it.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, when you're selling one of these quack devices and you're linking to this book as part of the advert for that device that you're selling, you can't wash your hands of the responsibility you have for customers who believe that what you're selling actually and what you're saying actually works. The fact that the eBay listing carried a disclaimer warning customers that this device is not a medical device and is not a medical device and doesn't constitute medical advice, it doesn't absolve the seller of the responsibility for the medical claims that they're making.
Agreed. Yeah.
These adverts clearly indicate that their product can be used to treat diseases like cancer, and as such, it might even be in violation of the Cancer Act, which is what I was saying at the Telegraph. eBay removed all of the fake cancer cures from sale after being contacted by the Telegraph, which is a good response. The problem is, I checked earlier today, so we're 4 days out from that, 5 days out from that story being published, and found more than a dozen similar zappers on sale on there. This is the problem with these tech companies, is that they rely on you reporting something as being a problem. They take their time to get rid of those things. A couple of days later, that seller can just go back up and relist a new ad as if nothing ever happens. Which is why much better would be if they produced a list of quarantined words. If you include these words in your ad, it goes into review. It doesn't go immediately live. And that's what we've been pushing for with Good Thinking. And if you were wondering what happened to Hulda after publishing her book in 1995, well, she went on to publish more books. In 1999, she published The Cure for All Advanced Cancers. In 2004, she published The Prevention of All Cancers. And in 2007, she published The Cure and Prevention of All Cancers. And in 2009, Hulda died of cancer.
At the end of last week, the British media was littered with headlines slamming the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, or NICE, for rejecting a pioneering treatment. The headlines included, blood cancer patients could be denied life-saving CAR-T therapy from the charity Bloodwise. Bloodwise, not Budweiser.
Not Budweiser.
Yes, CAR-T cancer therapy is too costly for the NHS, said the Times. Promising but expensive blood cancer drug rejected for NHS use from the Express. And NICE rejects blood cancer drug Yescarta from Medscape.
Is it called Yescarta?
Yescarta. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced, but that's how it's spelled.
Yescarter.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So Carter's in Magna Carta, not Carter's in Get Carter.
Yeah. It's a sequel to Get Carter.
I'm sort of thinking of like
Yes,
Michael Caine. Michael Caine trying to get rid of your cancer. Yeah. You're only supposed to blow the bloody cells apart. Yeah.
The Express explain that the rejection comes despite the drug being deemed promising and successful by medical experts. For those who aren't sure, and that covers our UK listeners as well as overseas listeners, because I don't think it's clear very often, NICE provide national guidance on the improvement of health and social care. They operate independently from government, but they are accountable to the Department of Health and Social Care. They make evidence-based recommendations that are used by all UK healthcare systems. And their original function when they were founded in 1999 was to reduce variation in the availability and quality of NHS treatments and care.
And the NHS genuinely do follow them. So
yes.
One of the things when we were trying to get CCGs to stop funding homeopathy was they would respond back saying, well, there is no advice on NICE not to give out homeopathy. Yeah. And that was one of the sort of hurdles we had to get past. So they really do pay attention to them.
Absolutely. Much of the media coverage focused on the fact that the FDA and the European Commission have both approved this particular treatment, which goes by the brand name Yescarta. They also focus quite heavily on NICE choosing not to recommend Yescarta because of the cost, with the Times saying a revolutionary treatment for cancer patients with a poor chance of survival has been rejected for widespread use in the NHS because it is too expensive. While the Express said NICE said its committee concluded the cost effectiveness estimates for Yescarta compared with salvage chemotherapy were above £50,000 per year of quality adjusted life gained. £50,000 is the upper limit of the range of cost effectiveness for cancer treatments. If you start to read between the lines of these stories, though, it becomes apparent that there's a lot more to this story. For example, despite the Bloodwise headline describing Yescarta as life-saving, when you read the text, it actually says clinical trial results presented to NICE showed that 49% of patients treated with Yescarta were alive after 6 months without any disease progression, and 41% of patients were alive with no sign of disease progression after 15 months. So that's less than 50% survival.
Yeah.
And also highlights that we've got 6-month and 15-month endpoints that are being reported and presumably are the trial endpoints, which is quite short for a trial.
And a new drug that's being referred to as promising
yes.
is hardly something that's... This is a massive scandal that we don't have this life-saving... it's a promising drug. It's looking good.
It looks good.
You know, but we're not necessarily there yet.
Exactly. And they also explain in this same article from Bloodwise, one of the main sticking points for NICE was that a clinical trial has not been carried out to directly compare survival rates between patients treated with Yescarta and patients treated with intensive chemotherapy. Mm-hmm. Which we'll come back to a little bit later, but it kind of doesn't fit with this media outroar that it's all about cost, that NICE are refusing based on cost. So obviously I did a bit of digging. Because NICE are transparent about how they reach their decisions, there's loads of information available about what information was submitted to them for consideration and what the major concerns of NICE were. So I have quite a lot to go on. But first, let's talk about what Yescarta actually is, because it just sounds like a drug, but it isn't. The generic name is oxycabtagene psiloleucel, and it's a type of therapy known as chimeric antigen receptor T-cell or CAR T-cell therapy.
I see what they say. Yeah.
It sounds complicated, and it is in a lot of ways, but at the base level, it's fairly simple. CAR T therapy is a type of immunotherapy. Immunotherapies utilize the human immune system to kill cancer cells. Mm-hmm. In the case of CAR T, T cells, which are the type of white blood cell that are able to kill other cells, are trained to recognize cancer cells. It's like giving a search dog the T-shirt of a missing kid to sniff. So these T cells are taken out of the patient's body and are trained to recognize a cancer cell. In this case, it's done by using genetic modification to put a recognition receptor onto the surface of the T cell and make sure that that receptor is specific for a marker that you know is on the cancer cells. So it's tailored perfectly to the patient. You've got a receptor on the patient's own T cells that recognizes a marker specific to their cancer cells.
Right. So it's one of those ones that is specific patient to patient. It's not like a generic thing. So it's
absolutely
it's not a drug. It's a therapy. It's
exactly. Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Then you reintroduce your genetically modified T cells back into the patient's blood. The T cells will recognize and kill blood cancer cells that they encounter. It's a really cool technique, and it's been one of big research interest recently. But of course, it comes with some potential problems, especially if you're playing around with the immune system. You run the risk of activating autoimmune responses. I mean, we'll talk a bit more about that later. But this particular company, Kite Pharma, have designed a particular type of CAR T therapy that they say works for a specific type of blood cancer, and they want to sell it to the NHS. So the Department of Health and Social Care asked NICE to look into it and make a recommendation on whether they should be giving this treatment to patients.
Well, it sounds good. It sounds like an interesting, novel approach. It sounds, dare I say it, promising.
It does sound promising.
Yeah.
So Kite Pharma submitted their evidence, and NICE also talked to non-company consultees and commentators, clinical experts and patient experts. So they get advice from lots of different people. Kite Pharma submitted just 2 studies. Only one of these studies looked at Yescarta in patients specifically. So this was the Zuma-1 clinical trial, where they looked at 111 patients with refractory large B-cell lymphoma. So patients with refractory large, this is a real tongue twister for me, it's got too many R's in it. Patients with a refractory large B-cell lymphoma have already failed treatment and have an average life expectancy of 3 to 4 months, although this can vary wildly between individuals. The patients had their T cells harvested and the treatment generated. They were given chemotherapy for 3 days and then were given a single dose of their genetically modified T cells, on average 17 days after the cells were originally taken. So they can generate it quite quickly, which is quite cool. Of those treated, so they only treated 101 patients. Of the 10 that they didn't treat, the reasons were 2 of the patients died, 1 patient had sepsis, 4 had adverse events, 2 weren't treated because their disease was unmeasurable, so they wouldn't have been able to see whether the treatment actually worked, and 1 had unsuccessful manufacture of the genetically modified cells. Of those that were treated, 85% had stage 3 or 4 disease, so they were all quite far along in the progression of the disease. 77% were resistant at least to this second line of treatments. So they'd had up to 2 treatments. 69% had failed at least 3 previous treatments. So these were very severe cases. These are patients who've progressed to stage 3 or 4 and also have, most of them have failed 3 previous treatments at least. Overall survival at 6 months was 78%, which is good for a lifespan of 3 to 4 months. By 12 months, it had dropped to 59%, and at 18 months, 52%. But still, reasonably good survival at 18 months. It's promising. Every single patient had adverse events, and in 95% of those patients, the adverse events were grade 3 or above. 93% had what they call cytokine release syndrome. Basically, you've put immune cells back into the body that are dumping a massive immune response very, very quickly that the body's not quite prepared for, and they have cytokine release syndrome. And that can be fatal. And 10 patients had serious adverse events. 3 patients died from adverse events.
And this was their evidence.
These were the findings of the clinical trial. So from the perspective of these patients who've got very, very severe cancer, it is terminal cancer, that 3% dying from adverse events of the drug is probably acceptable for if the drug is genuinely working. So the Zuma-1 trial basically shows that the treatment has a high likelihood of significant side effects, but the majority of patients survive them. And they are suffering terminal cancer, but it also extends life in over 50% of patients. But they haven't reported on what happens beyond the 18-month time period. The second study that Kite Pharma submitted is the one that NICE had the most concerns with. Scholar 1 was a retrospective study of patients only on the treatment they might have been on if they weren't part of the Zuma-1 trial.
All right, so the control was what we reckon would have happened.
Exactly. Yeah. It looked at the same cancer type, refractory diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, in 636 patients who had been treated using salvage chemotherapy, rituximab, maintenance therapy, or autologous stem cell transplant. There is no frontline recommended treatment for refractory diffuse B-cell lymphoma, so there is no one treatment that we can compare patients to, but most patients are given scavenger chemotherapy. But NICE were concerned, firstly, that it's not ideal to make comparisons between two separate studies rather than side-by-side in the same study.
Yeah, because you've got different populations, different sort of factors in there to take into account.
Exactly. But they decided that the argument Kite Pharma had made were sufficient that they would consider that evidence. But then on considering that evidence, they found that there were considerable differences between the two separate patient cohorts, and they weren't sufficiently adjusted for in the Scholar 1 adjustments. Mm-hmm. And they also considered that many of the patients in the Scholar 1 study wouldn't have even been eligible for Yescarta. So the comparison was not representative. Mm-hmm. You didn't have patients that would have been able to have the Yescarta treatment. Yeah. So NICE considered this evidence plus a range of different opinions from different experts and decided that at the current costing, the benefits over existing treatment is not clear enough for it to be worthwhile, and they do not recommend Yescarta for NHS patients.
Yeah.
Which sounds perfectly reasonable to me.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Patients who are already on this treatment will still be funded, but new cases are not recommended until Kite Pharma can come up with some better data and or reduce the cost significantly. It's also important to point out that although most of the media quoted this cost of £50,000, they didn't really explain what this actually means. Mm-hmm. We don't actually know how much Yescarta will cost in the UK. That hasn't been made publicly available. But in America, it costs $375,000 per patient. The $50,000 cost comes from guidelines that NICE uses to assess cost effectiveness. So they look at the cost per quality adjusted life expectancy.
Yeah.
So if they say that Yescarta costs over $50,000, which is their upper limit for cancer, over $50,000 per quality adjusted life expectancy gained, then they mean that for each 1 year of perfect health, the cost is over $50,000. Mm-hmm. And we only know it's over 50,000 because that's a limit that NICE already sets. We don't know how much over 50,000 it actually is.
And part of the point there, I guess, as well, is that the NHS is not a finite pot. So if it costs £200,000 to keep someone healthy for an extra year, and that £200,000 could give 8 people 10 years, then that's the way you've got to
put it in the right direction.
Your money. Yeah.
Absolutely. So for me, the NICE decision is a big win for science and healthcare. It highlights that we are considering the evidence carefully and making decisions for the benefits of our patients rather than just going along with what the FDA and the European Commission decided. It shows that not only is evidence important in making decisions that might affect the duration and quality of a patient's life, but the quality of that data is also important.
Where did the outcry come from? Do we know?
A few different newspaper articles, and
because it didn't come from the newspaper. So how did it get into the newspaper?
I don't know. I think part of it came through Bloodwise, the charity. They were actually listed as I don't know for certain where it came from, but they were listed as contributors to the discussion with NICE. They had actually quite a reasonable write-up. The headline was very scaremongering, but the rest of the write-up was okay. And I wonder if they've potentially directed it to the media.
Because it is tricky in these kind of cases, because I'm not saying this case, but we have seen cases in the past where it's been patient advocacy groups who have been leading the charge for a drug to be available. And you look at how those patient advocacy groups got into the newspapers, and there's a group involved in getting them there, and that group ends up being funded by the pharmaceutical company who says, well, these patients really do want our drug, so we're going to pump some money into getting their voice as loud as possible because it gets us through. I'm not saying that's the case here, but we know that has happened.
It is an important question to ask, and so I've also done a write-up of this on my blog, dralice.blog, and mentioned, and a couple of people have actually criticised me for mentioning it, but mentioned that Kite Pharma is now owned by a massive pharmaceutical company. They bought Kite Pharma along with the rights to sell the drug about 3 months before it was approved by the FDA. They spent $12 billion buying this company, and then they've also spent a lot of money buying subsidiary companies that had rights within the drug. There's a lot of they clearly foresee a lot of profit in this. They've spent a lot of money in acquiring it. Whether that money has then also been spent in other ways, it's hard to say.
We don't know either way, but
exactly. But it's always, my argument is it's worth being aware that those are motivations that big companies will have. That these things are profitable. which is why it's frustrating then to see all the media outrage saying that NICE are making a decision based on money when they have a limited pot. And in reality, we could be criticising the pharmaceutical company for making it so expensive when they could maybe subsidise it in some ways, bring the cost down, make it more.
I mean,
more
obviously,
available.
the pharma company, they tend to have their own reasoning behind that they would justify it by saying it costs a huge amount of money to bring drugs to market. But yeah, it's a messy system all the way around, and it's not straightforward.
I think the media coverage of this is far more insidious and dangerous than we necessarily immediately think, because almost all of this coverage is framed as A, this is a failure in NICE to appreciate the promise of this treatment, and B, the decision is entirely about money. In today's climate of fake news and distrust in experts, undermining the ability of NICE and the NHS and setting them up as organisations who care more about money than lives has wide-reaching consequences. You only have to look at a few of the comments under the Times article to get a feel for this. I've got some here, one from somebody called Wombledore. If only we weren't wasting so much money on other things. Furthermore, having open borders as we do, the healthcare system has to cater for the ever-increasing numbers who need it.
For fuck's
No
sake.
evidence of ever-increasing numbers.
KGS said, what price a person's life? We send plus of £13 billion in foreign aid, much of it wasted. Let's spend some of that money instead to make sure our cancer patients have every chance of life.
That's not how that works.
Not to do so is a national disgrace.
It's not wasted. That's not how that works at all. You don't understand foreign aid. You
Joff
just have soft power.
said, perhaps if all who work for the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence were precluded from having for themselves or any member of their immediate family any type of private health insurance, it might give them a new perspective on cost effectiveness.
It probably wouldn't.
That's like downright vindictive, though.
Yeah.
And it probably wouldn't, because what they're trying to do is make sure that the money is being spent in the way that's best for everyone and not for specific patients in one specific area that it might not be the most effective.
Yep. And if they did have a patient suffering from that kind of cancer, I would hope they would say, okay, well, I'm not equipped to be part of this discussion.
Or they would say, we looked at the data for Yes Carter and it's not up to scratch. I'd rather have them have a treatment that we know works.
Yeah. Ricky Freeman said, the NHS is a national disgrace. I want my tax pounds back. I will make my own arrangements.
What? How is that? No. Yeah. No, you won't make your own arrangements because you won't be able to afford it because you don't have collective bargaining power. You don't have collective buying power at that point.
Yep. GT said they prefer to fill patients with cytotoxins unless they become patients themselves. This is how a government agency kills enterprise and development.
Wow, there's a lot in there.
So we've got racism, we've got selfishness, we've got nationalism, we've got conspiracy theories. Like it's all in there, and a lot of it, I don't think it's triggered by these articles, but it's certainly stoked by them. But the media are quite fickle, and on the day of recording, there is more news on CAR-T and NICE. Today, the media is very happy with NICE because, according to The Guardian, NHS to treat young cancer patients with expensive game-changer drug.
Oh, is this the same drug? I saw this headline. This is the same...
A different drug, same type of therapy. Meanwhile, ITV News say children offer game-changing NHS cancer treatment after funding deal. The Times said game-changing NHS treatment saved children with leukemia. BBC News say deal for NHS to offer exciting new child cancer therapy. And The Telegraph, NHS to fund game-changing personalised cancer drug. And The Mirror, child leukemia cure hope after young cancer victims earmarked first to get revolutionary treatment. They just throw words together, don't they? None of those really flow. The Mirror goes on to say the NHS is set to announce today that it will become the first health service in Europe to offer full access to the immunotherapy called CAR-T. And suddenly it becomes very clear that money wasn't the main reason for NICE rejecting Yes Carter. This treatment is set to cost £282,000 per patient, according to the Mirror's coverage. This new treatment is called Kymriah, generic name. I don't know why I put it in because I'm going to struggle to pronounce it now. Tisagenlecleucel T, which works in a very similar way to Yes Carter. T cells are taken from the patient, genetically modified to recognise cancer cells, expressing the same molecule on their surface as Yes Carter. This approval was this week at the NHS was announced this week at the NHS conference in Manchester. So on the day of recording, I don't have access to the full NICE report because that hasn't been fully published yet. But from the media coverage, it seems there is a stronger response rate and more adequate controls in the studies done so far. This drug comes through Novartis, and I think they've revolutionized, according to the media, they've revolutionized their costing strategy, and they're going to try and bring the cost down. So I think the numbers that are actually reported in the media are probably a little bit optimistic. I would imagine they're using the stats for the most charitable definition of response.
Sure.
But since NICE put so much care into considering Yescarta, I would hope the same is true for Kymriah, and this decision is a positive one. While the media are reporting its approval in people under the age of 25, NICE are due to report on the use of Kymriah in adults as well. And to me, this is just a perfect example of how medicine should work. People with a financial interest in the success of a drug, for example, pharmaceutical companies, should submit evidence to be considered by an external body who can interact with other experts and the company themselves in order to make an informed decision based on the evidence available. It's also an example of how the media shouldn't work. By scapegoating the independent body who supports the NHS in making medical decisions with limited funds, we are surely pushing readers into further distrust of medical professionals, and sometimes those gaps are then filled with conspiracy theories or alternative medicine.
So, Liverpool Skeptics in the pub, we have a social event this evening in Dr. Duncan's on St. John's Lane.
We do. I will not be there.
Which, you're off.
So Marsh won't be there.
So people can come along.
So come along to that.
For all the people who stay away because they hate me, you can come along. You can come along up there. No, I'll be speaking in Middlesbrough. I'll be giving my talk on the rise of flat Earth belief.
Yes,
in
That's
Middlesbrough.
Exciting.
So if you are in the Middlesbrough region, come along to that. You'll meet my mum because my mum's coming.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
All right. And in 2 weeks' time, we've got James Crossland, who's going to be talking to us about fake news and propaganda and
I'm so excited
all
for
that sort of stuff. That's going to be at the Casa on Hope Street from 7:30. We also have stuff to announce on QED.
Yeah.
So we've got the Ockham Awards for this year have been announced. They were announced a little while ago.
Well, the nominations have been announced, not
not
the
results. Turns out that would be a big spoiler.
That would be a massive spoiler. Yeah.
So the nominations for that are available.
Yep. So there's two categories this year. It's Skeptical Activist, which includes all of the stuff skeptics do. So that could be activism campaigns. That could be blogs. It could be podcasts.
Could be a podcast.
You could nominate us for our 10th defeat in 6 years or whatever the hell it would be.
I'd be very excited for us to lose this award again.
Yes, we're looking forward to being shortlisted and overlooked, as is customary. But all the stuff that we do is eligible. The stuff I do with Good Thinking is eligible. Be Reasonable is eligible. All that kind of stuff is eligible there. And then there's also the Rusty Razor Award, which was its first year last year, and Gwyneth Paltrow won it for Goop. And that made the national newspapers. It ended up being talked about on Room 101 with Frank Skinner as Jimmy Carr put homeopathy into Room 101 and the Rusty Razor Award come up. So it is a great opportunity to get some publicity to someone who some publicity that they wouldn't particularly like to someone who deserves a spotlight on them. So if you can think of the worst pseudoscientist of the year, you can make your nomination for the Rusty Razor Award.
So we'll put a link to that in the show notes. Also for QED is we're looking for QED volunteers. So QED, we've got a very small staff of people who actually organise QED, and one of the ways that we're able to do this and one of the ways we're able to keep costs low is by asking you guys, people who come along to QED, people who are just normal attendees, who've just bought your ticket like everyone else, you're just coming along for the weekend, to give up an hour or two of your time to help out with QED, with the running of the event. We promise not to take up very much of your time. If you've got, I've got a burning desire to see this person or that person, we'll work the schedule around it. And especially if you're coming to QED for the first time, or if you're coming to QED on your own, it's a great way for you to get to know people and get to meet people as well. So if you're interested in volunteering at QED, we're still looking for volunteers. You can contact volunteering@qedcon.org, or you can find information on the QED website.
That's true. The other things you can find the QED QED website are some of the announcements we've made recently of additions to the QED lineup. So I think we've already told you that we've got Jay Wilgoose from Public Service Broadcasting speaking. Yes. We've also got Pixie Turner, who's going to be speaking. She'll be giving, in her words, a talk about how she went from a wellness wanker to a wellness rebel, as she talks about what it was like moving away from pseudoscientific dietary advice that she used to promote and moving towards a more science-based, evidence-based nutritional sort of system or belief. I'll be giving my Flat Earth talk at QED. We've also got...
Your mum won't be at that one.
My mum will not be at that one. None of my family will be there. Well, my wife will be there, but that doesn't really count. Actually, it'll be the only time my wife does see me give a talk, because she always avoids me giving a talk anywhere. But she'll be too busy running around organising QED to watch that. We've got the quiz, the Space Shambles quiz, which is being put on by the Cosmic Shambles Network, that you can register a team of 4 for. I think we've got like 8 or 9 spaces left for the quiz, so you might want to get your skates on for that. Just for teams, not people, but there's those. We've got the Book Shambles with Wally Funk. Robin is going to be interviewing Wally Funk and Sue Nelson.
Wally Funk was an American aviator who did all the space program training. There was a special program set up, I think, called the Mercury 13, which took a load of women and trained them to be, because obviously it was all men in the space program. So it was like, let's get a load of women, we'll train them up to go into space. And she did that. She went through all the training. She got better scores than some of the male astronauts who ended up going up there. And then the American government, we're going to cancel that program. And she never actually went, despite having done everything, she never actually went up into space. But Wally Funk is going to be there and appearing on Book Shambles with Robin Ince and with the broadcaster Sue Nelson as well, because they've just written a book together about Wally Funk's time as an aviator in the Mercury 13.
Yep, so there's millions of things. There's just all sorts really. So go to QEDcon.org and you can find out all that stuff if you're coming along, see what's in store, and we'll be announcing more stuff soon.
And also, of course, if you're in Australia, the Australian Skeptics National Convention is only a few weeks away, where you will be able to see Alice talking about, is it your cancer talk that you're doing?
More stuff about cancer.
Cancer stuff. And so that's the 13th and 14th of October. And whereabouts in Australia is it? Australia's a big place.
Sydney.
Just saying,
Sydney.
If you're in Australia, doesn't particularly help.
It's in Sydney.
If you're in Melbourne, you could probably make the jaunt. If you're in Perth, it might be a bit of a long way.
You can get there from Brisbane.
Adelaide, that might be a struggle. I'm running out of places in Australia.
Erinsborough.
Tassie might be a struggle if you live in Tassie.
Erinsborough.
Erinsborough,
where Neighbours was set.
Dead easy to go there.
The fictional suburb where Neighbours was set.
Dead easy to get there from Erinsborough, I'm sure. So yes, and you can find more information about that on the Australian Skeptics website. Aside from that, then, I think that is all we have time for.
I'm pretty sure it is.
All that remains is for me to thank Marsh for coming along today.
Thank you.
Thank you to Alice.
Thank you.
We have been Skeptics with a K, and we will see you next time.
Bye now.
Bye.
Skeptics with a K is a production of the Merseyside Skeptics Society. For more information, visit our website www.merseysideskeptics.org.uk or email podcast@merseysideskeptics.org.uk.